Last but not least of our graphs is a circle graph. Again, with the circle graph, I'd like you to use your categorical data. You should be able to use all of your surveys. So, you guys are ranging between 20 and 30 surveys. Again, I had 120. So I'm just going to use those 7 pieces of data that I have in the last couple videos. So when I look at this here, okay, this is going to be kind of your final product here. Okay, we have a circle graph. Now we got quite a bit of work here to do before we can get after your circle graphs. What I need you to do first is this picture right here. Circle graphs. This is a protractor. With your iPad, you can press and hold on that protractor, and then you can save the protractor to your camera roll. You're going to need to have it in your camera roll. Now, I did this project and explain everything. It worked decent to be able to use a protractor and explain everything to kind of move it around. I'll show you examples of how to do that in here. Now, before we get going, we need to do some work. Okay, so how did I figure out, how big to make each piece? It was not a guessing game. Okay, it was dealing with our friend the proportions. Okay, we all remember how to do proportions: cross, multiply, divide, right? Well, again, notice here, this is kind of some work that I did. You're going to have to do this for each one of your categories that you put in the circle graph. So I listed here, I have 120 total surveys. So 120 surveys is going to be 360 degrees. Because, we're doing a circle graph. So the whole circle is 360 degrees. Okay, now Swedish fish. If I look at my data, from here, how many people liked Swedish fish? There's 12 people that like Swedish fish. So I put 12 over 120. Okay, now I made that equal to x over 360. X meaning how many degrees is it going to be out of 360? So that's always going to be over 360 for all of our problems. So, and 120 is not going to change either because that's how many surveys we're taking. So I had 12 Swedish fish over 120. That equals x over 360. Cross multiply, I get 120 times x equals 4,320. Divide by 120, and I get x equals 36 degrees. So there's my 36 degrees right there. So then what I needed to do is, what I wanted to do actually is find out what percentage 36 degrees was of my circle. So now some of you might have already done this and found the percent. You could actually do it from here, do 12 divided by 120 times 100, or you can take 36 degrees over divided by 360 times 100. That equals about 10%. All right? So now what I did, okay, again, 36 degrees, that's kind of our key number here. I'm going to go over and show you what I did to do the Swedish fish on the iPad. So over here on the side, I chose the four-way moving tool, okay, and then I can grab my protractor. Okay, you can kind of maneuver this thing around. You can make it bigger and smaller and all those sorts of things. Okay, now my Swedish fish is over here. So when I look at it, okay, you want to line that thing up just right. Okay, you want to be as careful as you can. All right, so notice right here in the center, I lined up the center of my protractor. Okay, now if you remember, we go back to our numbers, to our work. Okay, I have 36 degrees here for Swedish fish. So let me go back. Okay, and here's my Swedish fish. I'm pretty close to that line. Okay, here's 30. Here's 30. And 35 would be that line here, so I went 36 just a little past that line, and I drew my other line in. Okay, does that make sense? Hopefully that makes sense. So then I drew that line in, and then I wrote Swedish fish over here, and then I wrote 10% right there. So not only can I see, what piece of the circle it is, I can also see the percentage. All right, so that's kind of a nice feature there of a pie chart. All right, now I went ahead and next thing I did was my Skittles. So my Skittles was 60 degrees. 16.7%. Again, how did I find 60 degrees? Well, 20 people like Skittles out of 120. That has to be equal to x over 360. Okay, and then I cross multiply, divide, and I get this. I divide by 120, and I get 60 degrees. Then I took 60 degrees, I divided by 360 degrees, and I multiplied by 100. Now, you could have got that the same way by doing 20 divided by 120 times 100 as well. That'll also give you 16.7%. Okay, now let me go back to my circle chart. Okay, now again, here's my Skittles section. Okay, now I need to go back and be able to move my protractor around a little bit. Okay, now it sometimes gets a little tricky in here because when you're grabbing your protractor, it might move your circle. So you just have to be a little careful. It takes some time. And right now I see my protractor is too big. So I need to get that thing shrunk down a little bit so I can see the numbers on my protractor. Okay. Now I'm pretty close in here. This doesn't have to be perfect, okay? I'm pretty close to this line right here. Now remember my Skittles is 60 degrees. So here's 60. This would be 0. This would be 60 degrees. Okay, so I drew my line in here. It's pretty darn close. So I wrote 17%, and there's my Skittles. Okay, so that's kind of how I made that. Now, we go to the next page. So here's my Swedish Fish and Skittles. Now we went to Reese's Peanut Butter Cups. Okay, how many people like that? 10 out of 120. So make that equal to x over 360. Cross multiply, divide. I get 30 degrees. Okay, so you're going to have to show all this work and work it out. You can do that on paper. If you wanted to do it on Explain Everything like I'm doing right now, it's fine, but you could do it on paper. You could even do your circle graph on paper and then take a picture of it with your iPad. So you don't have to do this on your iPad. I just tried to do it on my iPad so I could show you a way. I do have some protractors here in class, so if you would like to do it on paper, I can help you do it on paper instead, and then you can just take a picture of your circle graph and we can get it still uploaded into your website. So let me know if you need some help with that, and I can help. But you'll do it on paper the same way that I'm doing it on the iPad. So I have 30 degrees here with peanut butter cups and 33 degrees with Kit Kats. So let's do both of those. You know, I did all the work here already, so we have 11 people like Kit Kats over 120, O equals x over 360, cross multiply, divide by 120, I get 33 degrees. Then over here, 33 divided by 360 times 100 gives me about 9.2%. Now I just rounded the nearest percent, so this is 8% and 9% when we're looking at our circle graph. So, take a look here, Reese's Peanut Butter Cups. You gotta always be on that tool to move. So now I'm gonna kind of flip it this way a little bit. Okay, let's see here. That's pretty close. All right, so this is 0, and then 30 degrees would be about right there. Reese's Peanut Butter Cups, I believe, was 30 degrees. Yep. So that's pretty nice. Okay, 30 degrees. I am really close on there. Okay, so I'm kind of checking my work right now. Now go to Kit Kats. I think that was 33 degrees. So let's get that zeroed in there. And 33 degrees. So it looks like I'm a little off. I'm close to like 35. But again, that's pretty close. Okay, and there's my 8% and 9%. All right, so what do we have left? We have our Milky Way, chocolate, and Sour Patch Kids. So Milky Way, 7 people like that out of 120, equals x over 360, cross multiply, divide by 120, I get 21 degrees. 21 divided by 360 times 100 gives me about 5.8%. I'll write that as 6% on the circle graph. Then right here, 6 people like chocolate out of 120 equals x over 360. Cross multiply, divide by 120 equals 18 degrees. 18 divided by 360 degrees times 100 gives me 5%. Okay, so 21 and 18. Let's see if we can remember that. We'll go over here and check our work. Okay, so let's go to our Milky Way first. This would be 21 degrees. So we see here we're just over the 20, so that's pretty close. And there's my 6% for Milky Way. And then we'll go to the chocolate. And this was supposed to be about 18 degrees, so we're just less than 20, so that's pretty close. And there's my 5% for chocolate, 6% for Milky Way. Okay, Sour Patch Kids. 4 people liked it out of 120 equals x over 360. Cross multiply, divide by 120. So x is 12 degrees. 12 divided by 360 times 100 gives me about 3.3% or 3%. So let's check that 12 degrees out here. Let's move this protractor around a little bit. Okay, we need this to be about 12 degrees. So here's 10. So it looks like we're just past that. So 12 degrees looks pretty good. Now notice here I've kind of moved this Swedish fish around a little bit. So you want to check to make sure you're not moving things around. Now I'm going to kind of shrink my protractor and kind of stick it up in this corner to get it out of the way. Okay. Now at this point what I did was I took my 10%, 17%, 8, 9, 6, 5, and 3%. I added all those up. Okay, so 10 plus 17 plus 8, 9, 6, 5, and 3. That equals 58%. Okay? So if I, remember, everything's out of 100 when we're dealing with percent. So if I subtract 58%, that leaves me with 42%. Now remember, I would like you to do this circle graph for all of your data. Okay, now again, I had 120 pieces of data. So I just grabbed a few so I can make a video here for you and get this worked out. So what I did I said here is 42% is other. Okay, and that was just whatever I had left over here for this chart. So obviously it's less than 50. I can see that pretty easily because straight across would be 50% or 180 degrees. So I have 42% for other candies. Okay, when I look at my chart here, you know, and I wrote it all in here for day 6, you know, you can see here I have a lot. I have a lot of just maybe ones. Here's a 1, 1, 1, 1. Here's some 2s and 3s and 2s and 1s and 1s and 3s. Okay, so that would have been a lot. That would have been a lot of really small slivers of my pie. So if you have a situation like that where you have a lot of ones, you could group them all together to make an other category. I would be fine with that. However, you know, you see here I have 7 different sections that I've made. I would appreciate it if you would make, you know, at least maybe 10. Again, I kind of said that rule before, so I would like you to have at least 10 sectors, and then if you have a lot more than that, you can just say other for the rest of it. Okay. So again, I kind of have all my work here for you in how you need to do this. You can do it all on paper. You can even do the circle graph on paper, but then you can take a picture of it. We can get it into your website. So again, how to do that? We're going to go up into the circle graph. Now, for your circle graph, you don't need this little picture here. Okay, so if this is yours, you go in here and delete this image. Okay, but otherwise, you'll have this here. You'll do insert, document, and then we're going to do upload photos, and then select it from your camera roll so we can get that circle graph put in there. Okay, so it says right here some directions you will need to save the protractor above to your iPad so you can create the circle graph. That's if you want to do it on your iPad. Again, I have protractors in class here, so you wouldn't have to do it on your iPad. But anyways, good luck in making your circle graph and have a little fun here.